plot thickens even more. The David Coote situation, the conspiracy surrounding it, and it is, in many people's eyes, a conspiracy now due to the information that's coming out, the knowledge that the PGMOL had. And there's been debates in the last few days amongst fans, amongst media outlets, around does this really impact how a referee performs? Does their personal feeling towards a manager, towards a player, towards a football club actually have any real impact upon their professionalism? Now, what's really crazy, we've seen the likes of Dermot Gallagher come out and vehemently defend David Coote and all other referees, as I quote him, he's still really a colleague, as we've said all along, that his professionalism will still remain. Now, we're going to delve into why this has to be questioned massively. I had a big debate with LB yesterday about how can you prove bias. I'm going to go through how I think you can seek to eradicate bias to the best of your abilities. Maybe you can't remove it 100%, but eradicating it on the most part is going to be key. But also, this runs deep. This has been going on for a long time. And I think the claims from Liverpool fans, Chelsea fans, Arsenal fans, Man United fans has been proven absolutely right. And I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. I think the two biggest targets off the back of this are going to be Arsenal and Liverpool, because right now in the media, they're the two most outspoken fan bases, players, managers, against this. You have had it from the likes of Nottingham Forest and Wolves, but the power of Liverpool and Arsenal, the size, the sheer scale of those clubs is going to make them big targets. And we're going to go into why. But hit the like and the share button first of all, and we're going to delve into this in a little bit more detail. Now, first and foremost, I want to state that David Coote has also been booted off of UEFA's match list as the fallout grows after the video rant at Jurgen Klopp. The referee is now expected to quit his job before he is sacked, and it's been reported that he will cost him more than £1 million in earnings. And I did hear some people on TalkSport yesterday say, should someone really lose their job over this? I think calling someone a German "see you next Tuesday" warrants losing your job. I'm not someone that advocates for people being sacked on a regular basis, but what he has done is wrong. You look at the decisions that have come, the reports now that the PGMOL knew. They took him away from refereeing Liverpool games for a period of time and limited his involvement with them. Tells you they felt there was some sort of bias or problem there. All of this stinks of a very unprofessional behaviour and is gross misconduct, if I have ever seen it. But how far back does this go? Is there really bias in the game? And I keep asking this question because they've spoken about it the most on the Football Terrace. Are the Arsenal fans right? Were they correct about this type of behaviour? Well, I've been saying for a week or so now that I heard Gary Neville on the overlap state that a previous referee had once told him that he holds grudges against players when it comes to refereeing them in the future. I've gone through that podcast and it may have been removed. It may have been re-edited. And you can do that when you upload onto YouTube. I may also have missed it. So if anybody can find me the timestamp, I've looked twice, couldn't find it. Please tag that in the bottom. But I found the original quote. And this is why the whole situation feels so sinister to me, in the way in which I've seen Gary Neville, a man who I respect, a footballer who I respect, a pundit who I respect, the way I have seen him attack, along with Jamie Carragher, Nottingham Forest, the way I've seen him attack Liverpool for their statements, the way I've seen him attack Arsenal, the way I've seen him in recent times state that condemning referees is just creating an excuse for your team to lose, I think it is far too polarised an opinion and well over the top. And the reason I bring Gary Neville up, if we go back to this tweet, which also is what he commented about on his podcast, and that's this. Talking about Graham Poll, he states that Graham Poll once said in a Man United player briefing at the start of the season that he held grudges versus players from previous matches. The rest of his tweet then says, he's no better. This all stems from an article that Graham Poll wrote, where he said Mark Clattenburg gives nothing to a side once their fans have turned against him. And Man United paid the price against Burnley in that game. It was where Ander Herrera was sent off for a second yellow card after he kind of slipped and fell into a player. Now, I know I'm going back 8 years, but I think this is massively relevant because fans have been calling this out forever. And fans like me, it's not a bad excuse. This is when I started to change my mind around 2016, 2017, around... Actually, I think we need to look at refereeing decisions in isolation and criticise our team separately. We shouldn't just use the referees as an excuse. But when I heard an ex-referee say that Mark Clattenburg holds bias against fans, so fans give him abuse, I'm going to get you guys back by giving a decision against your team. Then I saw Gary Neville tweet, and since say it again, that this has been going on forever. Graham Poll once admitted that he holds grudges. The idea that bias doesn't exist and we can't prove it is absolutely undeniable. Chelsea fans calling out Anthony Taylor have a massive point. Arsenal fans calling out the likes of Michael Oliver have a massive point. When we've seen Mikel Arteta have a go at officials and then more and more bad decisions continue, is that a grudge? We saw Declan Rice sent off for flicking the ball away and multiple other players not booked. Arsenal made a big song and dance about it, and rightfully so. We then saw them receive yellow cards and subsequent red cards for more of the same. And again, other players at other clubs, like Szoboszlai at Liverpool as an example, like a number of other individuals that have played against, there was a Leicester player, I forget his name now, that kicked the ball away, none of which were booked. Now, some will just say that's inconsistencies or that is incompetence or the situations are different. But this calls for an inquiry into the level of bias that referees apply. How impartial are they remaining? There is now multiple evidence across decades of Premier League football of referees admitting they held grudges and had biases. And I understand they're human. But there are certain jobs where you're meant to remain impartial. And I believe it's now time for third parties to come in and evaluate, okay, to be objective and to review what the referees have done, interview them over their personal feelings, look at the statistics around who they give red cards to, penalties to, win percentages, and investigate whether or not they believe there is a bias being held, either consciously or subconsciously, to ensure that we are trying to eradicate bias to the best of our abilities. But there's also this video I saw that was put out on social media, which again is further proof of either rules being broke or grudges being held. Take a little look.
He's cautioned both managers. He's had a hell of a game. It's been such a tough game end to end. And I said to Andy afterwards, I just didn't want to attention to the screen after what's gone on in the game. And I didn't want to set him up because he's a mate as well as a referee.
And basically...
So he's a mate. So that was there Mike Dean talking about how when there should have been a red card, I think it was Romero pulled Cucurella's hair. Could have been another player pulled the hair, but I think it was Cucurella. I remember his long hair being pulled. The reason Mike Dean didn't send him to the VAR is he didn't want his mate to receive backlash for missing it. So forget giving the right decision, fairness, due to him having a friend on the field of play, he ignored the laws of the game. Absolutely horrendous.
What he's come out and said is, I've been in that situation when I've seen an incident and been told to say I haven't seen it.
That's a massive one here. Mark Housey's saying that he was told by the PGMOL to lie and say he didn't see the incident. And this is what I said to LB yesterday. When people say that, how can you prove there's bias? Well, it's looking at these scenarios, investigating these situations, and these referees are admitting this information. This stuff is going to be communicated to individuals. Maybe the PGMOL can be associated to the referees, but there's an independent body that has access to all the information. This way, you can ensure that this message isn't even being sent. Do you understand where I'm coming from? That most other major industries have independent regulators of some sort that keep checks and balances. Something needs to be done.
You can read all about it in my book.
To be fair to the FA, it's not them. It's come from within the PGMOL. Christ.
Big mate, wow. I think he should have sent someone off. And he said something like, should have sent you off there, but I want you to win it.
And this is quite a jovial one here by Danny Simpson, but a referee admitting to Leicester players that I should have sent one of your players off in the game, but I want you to win the league. Now, again, I think they're so protected, and I get LB's point from yesterday that if there was an independent regulator, maybe they wouldn't project these biases, but I think they exist, and if they exist, there'll be empirical data that, if you have access to it, will probably show a bias towards certain groups, certain individuals, certain players, certain clubs that can then be investigated. And it's then down to the impartial sort of adjudicators to then say, do you know what? You're being stripped of duties. You're being demoted. You're being suspended. We believe there's bias in this based on X, Y, and Z reasons. We're not happy with your explanations as to why you saw these 3 similar red cards so differently for Arsenal, but completely you saw it the opposite way when it involved Man United. These things need to be done, in my humble opinion, and we know these things have gone on for a long time as well. This was from the weekend where Mike Dean made a comment saying that the first yellow card foul was always free for him. Gary Neville then questioned him on commentary live, but what is that the letter of the law? He says it was when I was refereeing and started laughing. Now, for me, again, referees, I understand they say referee with an element of, you've got to assess the game and the moment and understand what's going on. But basically admitting, and this is something that was a bugbear for me for years, I'm going to let the first yellow card challenge go and book the next person. Again, where's the integrity there? The integrity of the game is instantly ruined by that behaviour. And I think this exposes the PGMOL on so many levels when you start to sort of put all this evidence out there in video format, the overlays, the tweets, ex-referees admitting they had biases, referees admitting they didn't send a player off because they wanted Leicester to win the league, the referees admitting the PGMOL told them to lie. All of these things indicate there are mass problems. And I think, again, it proves the Arsenal fans, the Chelsea fans, the Liverpool fans absolutely right in what they've stated. Third-party objectivity, independent reviewers need to be added to this situation. There needs to be a standardized evaluation criteria that is put together by the independent parties that is then studied and looked at. The removal of sort of in-house politics and that sort of nepotism that clearly exists. Focus on evidence-based evaluations, I think, is absolutely necessary. And then you couple that with transparency and accountability, and we can start to eradicate this. We can start to eradicate this kind of behavior. For me, there shouldn't be that referees are used as the excuse for every defeat, every draw, and everything that goes wrong on a football pitch. I'm not advocating that. So if you've already wrote that comment and you haven't got to 13 minutes into this piece of content, well, more for you. But at the same time as not blaming everything upon the referees, we cannot allow this nonsense, I think, as football fans to continue. They've been absolutely exposed from top to bottom. I believe Howard Webb should hand in his resignation and move on. I believe that the FA and the Premier League need to come together and look at an independent body that can come in and review things. And absolutely everything needs to be done possible to remove as much bias, as much emotion from these referees as possible to get the impartiality to the highest possible levels. This way, I think we will see less inconsistencies in decisions, more fairness on the pitch, which will in turn lead to more focus on our managers, players, and owners' performances when it comes to how we are getting on week in, week out, results in, and where we'll eventually be finishing the season and what we do and don't win. But the level of almost corruption now that we are seeing, the level of bias at the very least, I don't even believe it's incompetence anymore. I genuinely believe this is just about the referees protecting themselves. They've got their own agendas, and something needs to stop it. As I've already mentioned, I think the likes of Arsenal, the likes of Liverpool are going to be massive, massive targets of the PGMOL if nothing's done to actually fix that broken, toxic organisation. But I want your thoughts and I want your feelings in the comments section below. Please make sure you also share this in any of the group chats you're in. We'd like to get as many opinions on this as we can. Take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.